program for you. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently. I have Amanda Dominance here with me. She's the founder and director of Sacred Sound of the Soul. And I've been working with Amanda recently. She's helping me in bringing through the channeling of the family of light. This is something that I've personally been experiencing since I was a child, and which you experience in every single one of these sound healings that I do. But it's been really asking to become more than just a guided meditation during a sound healing, to actually become a conversation that addresses what's going on in the world today. And so we'll begin with a meditation. I'm here at the Sacred Sound of the Soul today, and so I have access to some wonderful, amazing instruments like this beautiful 20-inch super grade bowl and this wonderful monochord. So we have some very special instruments. So just stay tuned. I'm going to play the instruments and use the tones of these instruments to dial in not only myself, but you. And then we'll take a pause from that and just see what comes through today. So every session is new and different. So we open ourselves to whatever unfolds. So many blessings. Through the gift of the breath, we come into the presence of that which is eternal and true, that which is the divine intelligence of all things. An ever-unfolding birthright into the evolution of humanity. We collectively open ourselves to universal love, divine light, divine intelligence. And we invite forward to speak with us today. That intelligence which is greater than me. The family of light. We invite you to be present to us as we are to you.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. If you wouldn't mind, for the new audience that we're speaking to now, introducing yourself and your collective, and explaining a little bit why you're here.
Thank you, Amanda. We are a collective of beings not of one extraterrestrial or galactic or solar race. We are a collective of beings that come together on behalf of bringing forth the light, the truth, the wisdom of the universe here on Earth. We speak not only through Shelly, but through many. And in fact, those who we speak to are one with us, starseeds, beings who incarnated into a human body in this lifetime for the purpose of remembering and bringing through this divine wisdom. Shelly struggles in moments of humanity, like her shirt sleeve just falling off right now, which brings forth her humility, her vanity as a woman. And these things, there's an inner struggle in that moment for Shelly's presence over us. And so Shelly likes us to make this known. It's not necessary for us to have you know this. And with this being spoken, then Shelly can go back to her dormant state, her meditative state inside. It's a wonderful place where Shelly has learned to go to within to rest during these sessions so that she does not interfere with the session itself. So back to the question at hand. We are a collective of light beings. We come not only through Shelly, but we come through many on this planet. We bring only the message of love, of universal love, that is needed to allow humans to evolve into their next state of being, beyond third and fourth dimension, beyond the meat and bones, as Shelly likes to call it, of this time and era, but to begin to speak, to see, to feel, to communicate at a level that is even beyond the spoken words, to begin to communicate through frequency, vibrational frequency, to begin to understand the sacred geometry, the balance and the harmony of all things without a need of understanding geometry itself, but to understand a perfect balance, a give and take, a flow, an ebb, an expansion and contraction that is natural. The work here is to gift humans with the ability of being soft, of being in flow with all of the expansion and contraction that is happening at such a rapid pace on Earth right now, rather than tensing and fighting against it. And there are so many different ways in which humanity can fight against this right now. There are the obvious surface ones of all of the political strife and racial strife and all of the issues of humanity, where being a human right now becomes such an exercise in placing the blame and pointing the finger and taking a side and standing for that side. Whereas this action in and of itself thwarts humanity from evolving into the place that they want to be. It's important that humanity comes to understand at this time that the leaders on earth will not be the ones to lead you into a place of peace on earth. It is the collective, the wholeness. And so it's up to each and every individual to begin to be the essence of who they want to be in the future. And that definitely does not involve pushing against or blaming the other side or even choosing a side. It's choosing the whole and holding those who you may see as being lost or offensive or aggressive, holding them in your heart with extra love, as a mother would hold the child that struggles the most, with a little extra love that is necessary.
Thank you. Could you go into explaining a little bit about what is going on right now?
Before the session began, Shelly asked Amanda to not ask any of those very, very deep questions, since this is our first public broadcast.
I thought that was pretty.
It could have a very light answer, but there's a commitment here to speak of the whole truth. That is the purpose for being here. And so I will allow this answer to unfold. What is really going on here now on Earth? It is so much beyond a virus and political strife and racial strife and environmental strife in terms of global warming. It is so much beyond that. This is the microcosm that humans see and experience. And even for Shelly, many times it's difficult for her to draw herself up and out of that. But it's a necessity now that humans begin to understand how to rise above the microcosm of all that is on the nightly news. And what if you were to look down upon all of humanity and all of Earth as if you were a divine being in the consciousness of space, as you call it, maybe the dimensions, however far reaching your understanding of this is? What if you were to gaze down on the whole of humanity and Earth right now and look at what's really going on? And inside of doing this, you let go of your perspective. You let go of the other side's perspective, of the right and the wrong. And instead, you see the children who can't get along. Think of it like this. Recently, in Shelly's home, there was a teenage cat who needed a lot of attention. And so to alleviate this problem, Shelly thought it would be a good idea to bring in a baby cat so that the teenage cat would have someone to keep it company and play with. But the whole plan backfired in that when she brought in the baby cat, the teenager became jealous. And so now, instead of having two cats entertaining each other so Shelly can have more free time to herself, there's two individual cats that are both needing more attention because they are both aggravated by the other. And so Shelly is watching this situation thinking, if you two could just get along, that was the plan. That's why I put you here in this home together, so that you could be peaceful and enjoy each other, and so that I, the holder of this space, could move on to bigger things and put my concentration, with peace being created here, I could take my focus off of unrest or discordance and be one with your peace, and I could grow exponentially to affect the whole of things. And so it is with the perspective of the universe, of the divine beings in the universe. And you can apply those divine beings and that perspective of the universe to whatever your belief system is, beyond and inside of, as and around every religion and belief on the planet. You can apply this to it. There's a whole that is holding the space for all of Earth and all of humanity. And this whole is needing and wanting humanity to fulfill its purpose here on Earth of being the full expression of a human, which is not jealous or greed or anger. These are the baby steps that we go through. This is the teething process. But we're not infants anymore in this planet. It's time for humanity to evolve into the next stage of taking responsibility, not only for yourself, but for your neighbors, for your country, for the whole of humanity. And the only way to do this is to be the expression, the vibrational frequency of the ultimate outcome that you and everyone else wants. Think of it this way. What is each and every person that is fighting on this planet fighting for? They're not fighting so that they can have grief. They're not fighting so that they can have suffering or have less or have starvation or poverty. No one fights for this. Everyone fights for freedom. Everyone fights for happiness. But it can never work. For this moment that you're fighting, you are the vibrational frequency of discordance. And so the whole, the collective consciousness is affected by your fighting, by your pushing. And so the wholeness that holds the space for Earth, that which is greater than Earth, is waiting patiently, maybe at times desperately, if the divine could even know such a feeling, for you to grow up, to mature, to take responsibility for yourself and the whole, so that the energies that hold the space for Earth can then get on with their business. Imagine a microcosm within a microcosm within a microcosm. And surely it keeps going down and it keeps going up. It keeps going both ways. And so we're holding up the line. We're holding up the line. And it can also be thought of as a lineage. It's a good way to put it for humans to wrap their head around. If the great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, if your great-great-grandfather had a deep imbalance inside, a tendency for anger or violence or an emotional imbalance, this is something that may be handed down the line. It could be handed down genetically. It could be handed down ancestrally through the family, because those who he abused would abuse their children, who would abuse their children, and it gets handed down that way. Things get passed along this way. And so if you think of it this way, and you take that model but move it beyond the confines of time and space into a model where the discordance of the human race thwarts the highest efforts, the highest possible expression of the energies that are holding space for Earth and humanity. But then it goes on with that entity thwarted. There's another entity beyond that that holds the space for the entities who hold space for various species. It goes on and on and on. And so we're one here on Earth. This species is one of the most ridiculous conundrums in the universe, in that the Earth is astoundingly beautiful, astoundingly abundant. The Earth has every single thing needed to supply wealth, food, happiness, peace, balance, and harmony, not only to all of humanity, every living person, with exactly the population now and more, and every living creature, and the air and the water. And yet, at the hands of humanity, this is dismantled. This is craziness, is it not?
Absolutely.
It's craziness. So what is really going on here? Why is humanity not waking up? And this is when the conversation deepens to an understanding that in the universe there are not only benevolent forces of light, there are not only families of light as we are, there are not only angels and way-showers and givers and bringers forth of that which is good. As it is on earth, there are energies that are also hoping for a different outcome on earth. There are energies that would benefit from a negative outcome on earth. And both are being shown down on the earth. Coming to, Shelly is putting forth now one of her favorite sayings that she likes to say in workshops. It's a Hopi saying. It's the story of, or is it Cherokee? Matter not. It's Native American and technical disturbance. We're going to have to talk about these archaic technologies of Earth someday. Your cars. Come on. Pistons.
I'm looking forward to the Merkabas that we get to travel in. So, would you be able to give us some very easy, basic techniques that we can use during this time to live from that higher space?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for asking that. That is our purpose of being here. And this is the way that it's unfolded through the work with Shelly and the instruments and the channeled, the guided meditations that come through Shelly is this work. But not everyone has 30 minutes or an hour to sit through a guided meditation, a sound meditation. And so it's with great joy that we answer that. And so we want to begin by saying this. There's such a common saying that humans love to say, and that is, I can't focus my mind. I can't still my mind. I wish I could meditate, but I can't ever focus my mind. That would be great if I could do that, but I can't do it. And we want to say to you, you can, and maybe if you couldn't before, you can now, because we evolve. If you haven't noticed, time is moving very rapidly. The events on planet Earth are playing out very quickly now. You are being forced into rapid change. And so are you able to change rapidly. And so those inner awarenesses, those subtle awarenesses that you weren't able to grasp before, are now available to you. And so shake off that perspective that you are not the one that would be able to do that. Shake off the idea that it requires weeks or months or years in a monastery to be able to sit in meditation. You have evolved. Your mind has evolved. Your physical brain is not the physical brain that it once was. Have you ever looked at the physical brain of your children and how different it is from the physical brain of you when you were young? It's remarkable. You are growing, and so allow yourself to grow into that new space in the mind. And there are places in your mind that you can move into. There's various places, and beginning to understand the landscape of your mind and how to visit these different places is of a great help. It helps a lot, I understand, to feed your left analytical brain, because when it receives purely spiritual information, your left brain will very often chew that up and spit it right out. And so we offer you this. The two parts of the brain which you would like to be visiting are the frontal lobe and the pineal. These are both aspects of your third eye. And this is the place where you will go to receive this oneness. It's the place where Shelly goes right now to receive these channelings, as it is with every other channel on earth. They go into this special place, the pineal, in the mind. And this is when the crown opens and we allow for information to come through. Now, it is important, Amanda is seeing the information, the light above my head right now. Her eyes are looking up here, and that's very understandable. Amanda is gifted in seeing light and energy and communicating through sound and frequency, and so we're very lucky to have crossed paths, and it was absolutely no mistake that this happened and we were here together. The first thing, I will give you 3 points right now. The first thing is to feel safe as you open yourself to receiving energy. As we were speaking about when the technology interrupted, which is very interesting that I was speaking about the negative forces in the universe when the technology interrupted. We want to make sure that when we open to expand, that we are receiving that which is light, that which is love, that which is divine intelligence, and not attracting to ourselves that which is dark or shadow or negative or anything that would have a alternative motive or even be a lost energy that is looking for a body of light on which to attach itself. So that's not you. That's not who we want you to be. You are not a host for energies that are lost or dark or discordant in any way. You are a welcome host for light and love to channel through. And so by learning to create that safe space around you, you can safely move into opening yourself to receiving. One good way that you will always know is when you are receiving, it feels only of love, of compassion, of joy. The feeling is one of joy and gratitude. If you open yourself to experience energies and you experience anything other than joy, than gratitude, than love, then stop. Close yourself down. Close your energy. Cleanse yourself. Cleanse yourself. You can brush the energy right off. That's an intention. Cleanse your heart space. Cleanse the area behind your shoulder. Cleanse the area above your head. And begin again. There are many incantations and words that you can use to create this protection. They may change as you go through your life. There are many that are right. The important thing is that you find the one that is right for you. There is no right and wrong. It's the one that creates that space around you. Shelly uses a pillar of golden light. It is a pillar that comes around her of golden light. And inside of this pillar is a vacuum in which only that which is of the light can exist. That which is of the shadow or the darkness must be moved through the walls of the pillar of the light. On the outside of the walls, anything that moves through to the outside is returned to divine consciousness, to the light, to the love. To make that make sense, please understand that any energy that is dark or discordant is a derivative of the light. There is one source in the universe, one divine intelligent source. This source creates all of life, including life beyond what you witness here on planet Earth. life has free will to be of the light, of the dark, to be harmonious or discordant. And so all of these energies, from the perspective of the main source, are right. This is life unfolding. Just like the cats. The cats were not harmonious with each other. One cat became very angry, attacking the other. But is this not life? Is there not perfection in it? Is the cat wrong because it became jealous and is attacking the other cat? It simply is, and so it is here. And so it is from the perspective of the divine source of all things. And so when you are creating that safe space, just remember that which you are asking to leave, you are not doing wrong by it. You are not rendering it homeless. You are sending it back into the oneness of all things, back into a freedom, back into the flow, back into choice, back into oneness with the divine light. Words to use when you are wanting to protect yourself. Amanda shared these words with Shelly. This has become Shelly's current statement, although this has changed many times throughout her life. The reason this has changed is because when we take on a mantra, in the beginning, when we say it, we're just memorizing the words and we're distracted by the memorization. Then we memorize the words and we feel it powerfully and it becomes a very strong mantra. And then over time, it becomes rudimentary, and even as we're saying the words without thinking about them, we're not really activating or aligning with it, and then we seek a new one. These are the words Shelly is currently using. Encircle me in protective golden light. I ask that 7 flows of this light surround me in perfect protection. With the speaking of these words, Shelly feels the pillar of light come around her. She feels a vacuum, which sometimes even catches her breath, and then she feels a purity, a safety, a protection. Number 1, protect yourself. Number 2, allow yourself to drop within to the center of your center, the center of your mind. Drop within to the pineal. Imagine that you're traveling inwards to a tiny point at the very center of your mind. And as you do so, all other things begin to become veiled, not disappeared, not gone, just as Shelly is not gone right now, yet she's not accessing her intellect. She's not accessing her emotional records in this moment. If she was, they would block all of this. She allows a veil to come between her psycho-emotional self and to become, she allows herself to become still, a still point within. A feeling comes within the body that is a feeling of alignment. This is the energy centers aligning themselves. This is very important in this work. So it's not necessary that you study the chakras and know the meanings of each one of them. It is important, though, that you have this feeling of this energy balance and communication between these centers in the body. And from here, you simply begin to listen. And what you're listening to is not the chatter of the mind. A chatter of the mind will definitely come through. You accept it and allow it to go. You accept it and allow it to go. You accept it and allow it to drift away like a cloud onto the far distant horizon until it's so far away that you can no longer remember what it was or why it was important. And through this process, the thoughts begin to come fewer and farther apart. And now you arrive into an alignment, a stillness, a presence. There is no "you're a bad person" if this doesn't happen for you immediately. There is no "you can't do this. You wish you could, but you'll never be able to." You practice until you arrive. It takes that much time for you to glimpse the light, the truth of all things. For the realms which you are visiting, in which the divine consciousness comes through, is beyond the realms of time and space. And so in this much time, you can download the truth of all things, the balance, the harmony of the universe, the joy of divine consciousness. Practice this daily. Practice this every time that you're doing anything other than driving a car or operating heavy machinery. Practice this into being. Practice operating from this connection with divine intelligence. And this leads me to the third step. The third step is a shortening, it's a quickening of the amount of time that it takes you to arrive in that moment, that glimpse, that light. It's like you're sitting under a tree. It's a sunny day and you're sitting in the shade. And suddenly the wind blows and it blows the leaves around and the leaves part and a beam of light comes down and shines upon you so quickly, and then it's gone. But in that moment you felt warmth, you felt light. That's all it takes within, is that long, and you remember it. The third part is a quickening of that process. It's a choice that you make in every moment, even when you are completely out of that alignment and you're busy, your day is going wrong, you're in the grocery store, on the phone with a crying child, and many layers of being and doing beyond that. It's those moments that you choose to visit that place within, to connect, to soften physically against the push. And this is the turnkey element of today's teaching, is that softening. The quickening happens with a softening of the physical body. And so in those moments of stress, multi-layered, multi-dimensional stress within you, it's mental, emotional, environmental, all around you. The way in is noticing the tension in the physical body, noticing the grinding of the teeth, the tightness of the shoulders, noticing this holding, remembering, choosing. I am not the tension. I am not the pushing against. I am not the fighting. I am not the discordance. I am the flow. I am the light. I am that which I want to become. I am the freedom that I want for myself and for all things. And it begins in me. And the only way that it can begin at all is if I soften first my physical body. And so you soften the tightness in the jaw, the muscles of the face. You soften the muscles of the shoulders, the arms. What if you relax your hands entirely in those moments when life is hitting you from every angle? Notice the tension in your hands and see, exercise, practice if you can soften them completely. Soften the space around your heart. Surrender the armor that builds up around your heart. Historical armor, armor that's there for a very good reason. The armor of the future, the armor of today. Soften that. Breathe. And come into that inner alignment. Understand that it is only in softness that you can evolve. No light, no inner vision can proceed within a tense vessel, which is the same as a closed vessel. Soften. It starts with the body. The body will then soften your nervous system. The nervous system will then soften your emotional system. And the emotional system will then soften your mind. And your thoughts become clear as the majority of the thoughts, which is judgment and survival, become quiet. And you will look through your eyes onto this world, right there in line at the grocery store, on the phone with a crying child and some jerk behind you. You will look through your eyes in that moment as if you're looking down on the whole of Earth, as if you're the keeper of Earth and the keeper of humanity, and you're just waiting for your children, for your pets, to say, oh, I'll never be happy and have the freedom, the abundance, the health, the wealth that I want, that I'm seeking, unless I start right now within me. And you will look around you and you will see the spark of life in that jerk behind you. And you will hear the need in the voice that is causing you tension on the phone. And instead of fighting back, you will say, how can I help? What do you need? Let me see what I can give you to be okay right now. And you will have compassion for your crying child, that the energy of that compassion overriding the frustration of the moment, the energy of the compassion alone will cause your child, who is energetically bound to you, to also soften. You will ripple out like a wave of light, of love, and affect everyone in your environment. Can you imagine when 10% of humanity is behaving this way? Can you imagine when 51% is? Can you imagine when the whole of humanity is behaving this way? Not only will you know your heaven on earth that you achieved by not fighting for it, but you will begin to know what is available to you beyond earth. You will begin to know what happens when earth as a whole and humanity as a whole are now feeding the energies that are the keepers of earth and of humanity, rather than taking their energy by being discordant.
Thank you. It does seem like it's getting easier to be in that space of compassion. At least for myself, I've noticed a huge shift in the past few months, really, recently. I want to thank you for taking the time to be here with us today. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be here, and we look forward to the next one.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for holding this space for us and Shelly. And thank you to everyone who has tuned in with us today. This is a breakthrough moment in this work. Shelly has been working up to this moment for decades. And so there is much gratitude and much, much, much more information and light and love to be shared. Thank you. Blessings.